So the Nintendo Switch hardware situation just took an interesting turn, because you are probably well aware that we know that Nintendo is now committed to revealing to us at least what they have cooking with the Nintendo Switch 2, or the successor to the Switch as they are branding it at this point in time, within this fiscal year, which ends March 2025. So even if you want to be ultimately with the lowest level of expectations from Nintendo's own mouth, their president's mouth, Shintaro Furukawa, they are going to communicate to us what is next in terms of the Switch's successor by March 2025 period. So we don't have to wait any longer than that for sure. I personally think the next console is launching in March of 2025, and we will learn about it later this year. But what was interesting as part of that most recent investor briefing is Nintendo's rather aggressive sales forecast that is 13.5 million Nintendo Switches that they intend on selling throughout this fiscal year, meaning the end of March of 2025. And how will they go about achieving that? Well, in light of some recent reports from Circana, aka the new version of NPD sales that does track sales here in North America, there is a significant, not a small, but significant drop off that has appeared as of April 2024 for Nintendo Switch hardware sales. And in this video, I want to break down what this means for Nintendo's bottom line, and really what it means for the consumer now that we know to expect a successor console to be revealed to us sometime soon, and specifically what strategies we might see Nintendo implement to actually come close, if not achieve, their sales target of 13.5 million. And that does indeed include the idea of a price drop. So we'll get on the same page with all of this information. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And we have to first kick it off with reading through a post over on X from Shinobi602, which does a nice job of summarizing all of the data that has been highlighted here from the US video game market in April 2024, where you can see total US spending fell around 3% in April compared to last year, $4.1 billion. PS5 was the number one console in units and revenue, followed by Switch, number 2 units, number 3 revenue, and Xbox Series is number 3 in units, but number 2 in revenue. PS5 is currently the US market leader by a significant margin. Hardware sales declined a minimum of 26% compared to April 2023. Nintendo Switch dropped, and this is the big part, 69%, nice, LOL, which is a significant dip off. Now, there's some further highlights around Stellar Blade and Helldivers 2 and various other PS5 stuff, but what is relevant to this Nintendo focused conversation today is the drop off of 69% of the sales of Nintendo Switch units. That is quite literally falling off of a cliff in terms of year-over-year sales projections. And when Nintendo is touting a number like 13.5 million as they have to their investors, that's their loose commitment. It doesn't mean they can't revise that forecast, but that is really not what you want to lead off the year with in terms of your first North American fiscal year report, because the US is Nintendo's largest market by a large margin. It doesn't necessarily look like they will be pacing to hit that number to investors right now. Now, there's a couple things that I think we will see Nintendo do now that we're actually in the time frame that consumers technically know about Nintendo's successor hardware. Granted, we don't know the details around it, we don't know the launch date yet, but Nintendo actually has, from their own mouths, of course, confirmed to the masses that they are working on their successor hardware and that they will reveal it within this fiscal year. Naturally, that will affect market purchases, and while it hasn't necessarily made it out to every corner of mainstream media yet, if you just talk to a casual Nintendo fan that you meet in a store somewhere with a Super Mario shirt on, they might not know that the successor Switch has been confirmed by Nintendo's president. It might be something more niche that hardcore Nintendo fans that watch this channel keep up with. You still get the idea that a lot of people know that a successor hardware is coming, and when they are looking at their purchases for the rest of the year, they may indeed choose to wait and skip up on a console altogether. And while this is April 2024 sales, which was before Nintendo had communicated the successor console, it makes you stop and ask the question if we will see this number continue to significantly decline. And you also have to remember that April last year was in the lead up to the launch of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which was the massive blockbuster game for 2023. And then we even had a brand new incredible 2D Mario Bros game by the name of Super Mario Bros. Wonder towards the end of the year in 2024. So some real big heavy hitter titles that Nintendo could lean on in order to drive new console sales. And you stop and look around this year, and we're about to wrap up the official roadmap of announcements from Nintendo, and literally every first party published game outside of, if you want to count Endless Ocean being a new edition and Princess Peach Showtime, every other game game has been literally a port or remaster from a prior generation that has launched from Nintendo from a first-party perspective this year, and they have no big Tears of the Kingdom in the holster or any kind of new Mario game in the holster. Now, we are at the time of filming, of course, right around the corner at any point in time from when they may hold their upcoming Nintendo Direct presentation. We know it's happening in June, we just don't know when, and that could fill out a lot of the gap and a lot of the question marks around how Nintendo will continue to move consoles throughout the rest of this year. But I do think that this stark decline in Switch sales data is very telling that they need to do something else to move the needle if they are to try to even come close to their 13.5 million forecasted units for this fiscal year. And that's where I start to think about the potential as we get closer to the holiday time frame. I do not think it will happen any sooner than that, but I do think that Nintendo, while they have been extremely successful with the Switch from both profitability and total units perspective, they have yet to ever pull that ace up their sleeve, which is a price drop on aged hardware at this point in time that they could clearly afford, even with the supply chain and inflation and different things kind of being hiccups along the way. You can't tell me that a console that launched originally in March of 2017 couldn't be price dropped, and then you had the OLED model launching 2021, which still had the same Tegra X1, the main chipset that is of course running the Nintendo Switch from a graphical performance perspective. Like, they have room here to drop the price, and I do think this might be the first year we see them do so, where we're going to know about the new console walking into the holiday season, in my personal opinion. And Nintendo, the way they will get consumers to go out and buy their console this time around is by just having it significantly cheaper than it's ever been sold before. Maybe even entertaining the idea of still bundling in some certain games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Smash Bros, Animal Crossing, and a few other bundles across the various different versions of the SKUs that they have for Nintendo Switch. And there's even the possibility of some kind of Switch Mini or Switch revision, like a late console lifecycle revision like we've seen Nintendo do over previous generations, especially with the Wii even earlier into its life cycle than the Switch has made it. It got the Wii Mini. It's just a cheaper $99 version that had no GameCube backwards compatibility baked in, but it was just to play all of the classic Wii games, and Nintendo was able to get a little bit more juice out of that incredibly successful console generation by releasing a lower cost version. It's not off the table that Nintendo would want to get rid of something like their base model Switch and have something that sits around that $200 to $250 price point regularly as we talk about the Switch into next gen. But before we even see them potentially do that this holiday season, I think it's on the table that the Switch Lite gets as low as $150, or if they really want to drive it home for, you know, just a no-brainer pickup for the holiday season, I think they could drop it down as low as $99 and make that the no-brainer for any children that just want to have it in handheld mode. They don't care about, you know, TV play and things like that. But you think about the value and the kind of game library that you have available to you for a $99 console for a Switch Lite. Granted, it can't be docked. That's still an insane deal and could help move the unit needle quite a bit for Nintendo. If the base model comes in anywhere from $250 to $200, that is yet another steal of a deal that they can rely on to help move extra units. And I don't think we see the OLED necessarily go any lower than the $300 price point. But even if they drop it to that, that is still the premium model Nintendo Switch with a enhanced handheld experience for less money. And I think Nintendo realistically has to have things like that up their sleeves if they intend to come anywhere close to the forecasted number of sales that they have forecasted for this fiscal year, because we're already seeing this stark drop off early on in the year from the NPD or Circana nowadays. So while I don't think this information indicates that the Switch 2 is right around the corner and it's coming sooner than we would have anticipated, I do think we still learn about Switch 2 this year. We see a launch in March of next year, just like a copy and paste from the Switch's reveal and marketing cycle, and we might just have a more interesting pricing lineup and bundles available for the Nintendo Switch family of systems than we've ever had in the past this holiday season in 2024. But that's where I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video. What do you think of this hardware shakeup for Nintendo? Do you think they are looking at these numbers and are now worried at all about their 13.5 million units fiscal year number? Do you think they might readjust that forecast down and they won't come anywhere near hitting hitting that this year, considering the Switch is literally in its 8th year of sales and will complete 8 full years as of March of next year? And when do you think we will actually learn about Switch 2? And do you think that has a significant sales impact on the Switch that we have today, selling through the rest of the holiday season of 2024? And what moves do you think we might see Nintendo ultimately do to try to get as close to their forecasted number as possible? So thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. Make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.